Hello and welcome back to the course Private Pilot Maneuvers. Today we'll discuss slips. Actually, we already talked about slips in the turning lesson. There we actually talked about unintentional slips, so flying a turn uncoordinated. But this time we'll also discuss slips that are done intentional, and they can be pretty helpful, especially to lose altitude quickly. Now, a slip, in the most general terms, is simply a situation where the bank angle is too steep for the existing rate of turn. And this rate of turn, if you do an intentional slip, may even be 0. Unintentional slips normally are caused by uncoordinated flying. So you're flying a turn and you do not apply any rudder into the turn. And intentional slips are done to create a lot of drag normally, to enable steep descents without the airspeed increasing so much due to the high drag. And side slips are also used during crosswind landings, as we've seen in the last lesson actually. Side slips to lose a lot of altitude quickly are also very handy in forced landings. Assume you have an engine failure during cruise, you have picked your field, but on final approach to your landing field, you notice that you're too high. Then a slip can be very helpful to lose that excessive altitude. There are actually two types of slips. There's the forward slip and the side slip. We'll talk about the differences in a minute. Most airplanes have positive static directional stability. So this means that you will need really deliberate flight control inputs to bring the airplane into a slip and keep it there. All right, now first of all, there's the side slip. Now in a side slip, you apply aileron in one direction and then opposite rudder to keep the airplane from turning. That's actually exactly what you do when you're using the wing low method during a crosswind approach. And then there is the other slip, and that's called the forward slip. This is the one that's used to lose a lot of altitude quickly, to have a high descent rate without the speed increasing due to the high drag. Now here you apply aileron in one direction and then opposite rudder, so that the nose is at an angle to its previous flight path, but the direction of motion is still the same as before. And now as the nose is at an angle to your flight path, you create a lot of drag, and this of course helps to reduce altitude quickly. Well, actually you can do this to the left or to the right, so left wing or right wing low. Doesn't really matter actually if there is no restriction in the handbook. Some handbooks forbid slipping at all, so then unfortunately you can't do it. This often has to do with the fuel feeding from the wing tanks to the engine. And that's also the reason why in some airplanes it might be advisable to slip in such a way that the fuel flow to the engine is optimized, so to speak. So let's say you have an airplane where you don't have a both fuel selector, just left and right tank, and you're flying along on the right tank, so the fuel is coming from your right wing. Then of course it makes sense to slip with the left wing down, so that the fuel, because you're actually taking fuel from the right wing, which is then higher up, and the fuel flow to the engine will be better. All right, so there's a practical slip limit. Of course, that is when you notice that you have already applied full rudder, and any increase in bank, however, would then make the airplane turn. Then you have reached your slip limit. If you need, you can overcome this by increasing the airspeed, because then you will have more airflow over the rudder. Now to end a slip, you need to release that aileron and rudder pressure in a coordinated way. If you do the slip shortly before landing, don't recover too late, because then the landing will become very unstabilized. keep the slip as long as you need it, but there is some point where you need to end it. Of course, you need to end the slip before your actual touchdown. Also keep in mind that due to this attitude during the slip, so with actually one side of the airplane in the airstream and the other one kind of in its shadow, that you will have false airspeed readings because the airflow is not going straightly in the pitot tube anymore, but it's going more directly into the static port if it's on that side now in this example. So the airspeed, the indicated airspeed might have a considerable error. You need to take that into account. So it's even more important that you're able to judge the slip, not only by the airspeed, but by the attitude, by the sound of the air, and just the feel of the controls. All right, so slips come in very handy in an airplane that's approved for slipping, especially, as I said, during forced landings, but also if you come in too high and too fast, or maybe just too high, and you need to lose some altitude quickly. So it's an important skill to master, and we'll try that in the airplane. I see you there.